I'm Jennifer Bresley, and this is my expo topic for Alzheimer's disease. So I'm teaching you about. So the essential understandings I want you to walk away with are: what is Alzheimer's, how does a neuron work, and how does it affect the main functions of the brain? What are the two causes of Alzheimer's that occur inside the brain, and how many stages are there, and what are they? Also, what are the environmental and genetic risks of contracting the disease? And then what are some ways of coping or treating the actual disease? So what is Alzheimer's? The definition is a disease that causes conflicts with behaviors and memory. Patients don't have enough neurotransmitters, and these are chemicals in the brain that transmit messages. Tau, fine fibers of a protein, they get twisted together and they form tangles. And once these build up, they burst and they cause the cell to die. There is another protein called beta amyloid, and these build up in layers in between the cells and they cause plaques. And these are toxic, so they'll also end up killing the cell. So the main functions of the brain that you need to understand, because Alzheimer's affects all of them. The three main parts are the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. So the cerebrum is the part that fills up most of the brain. It's engaged in memories, problem solving, thinking. There's the cerebral cortex, so that's the outermost layer, which is the wrinkled part. You can kind of see it in the picture. Then there's the cerebellum, and this part sits at the back of the brain under the cerebrum, and this helps with balance and coordination. And there's the brainstem, and this piece sits in front of the cerebellum and below the cerebrum, so it's right here. And this is what helps with automatic functions, so digesting, heartbeat, and breathing, just everything like that. Then you get down to the molecular level, so the makeup of a neuron. So a neuron is a nerve cell with genetic information. So work performed in the brain goes on in individual cells. An adult brain has about 100 billion neurons, and it has branches that connect to over 1 trillion points. And unlike any other cell, neurons have dendrites and axons, and these are extensions of the cell. Dendrites come out from all around the cell body. You can see it better on your diagram, which I'll explain next, but the dendrites are just right here, and they come out all around the soma, which is this big body. And then you have the axon, which is a single long strand that comes out from the end of the soma, which is right here. It's really jumbled up though. So on your little diagram, you can get out like a pen or a pencil, and then I'm just going to label everything. So right here would be the soma. And then we also talked about the dendrites, which come out from all around the soma. And then I explained the axon, which comes out as a single strand underneath. So before we fill out the rest, I'll explain it. So information travels between neurons through impulses, and these are little electrical charges called neurotransmitters. So to represent that, I just put the little squiggly lines, it's like the electrical charge. And so right here, oh, I'm sorry, I put that in the wrong spot. This would be axon. And this right here is pointing up to what it is. This is the neurotransmitter. And then one last point is chemical data is collected at a synapse, and these are at the end of the axon, so these are the little points right here. And it triggers the release of the neurotransmitters that transport the information from one neuron to the next. And I also put down the next neuron would be right here. And you can see it traveling to the next one. So the information, yes?
What is that on the end? What's just the synapse?
That's synapse. So the way that the information travels is it goes from one synapse to the dendrites of the next. It goes through the soma, all the way down the axon, through the terminal to the synapse, where it goes through impulses to the next neuron, so to the next dendrites. And it takes the same path every time. And they do not touch. And that's a big point that people don't get, is that neurons do not touch each other. It's all impulses. So I want to do an activity with you guys, the neuron activities. If I could have some volunteers. Yeah. Okay. These are going to represent the neurotransmitters. And then, so I'm going to need a couple more volunteers. Yeah, right there. Anybody else? Mitchell? Here. So I think I can have you hold hands on the side. And you're okay. Okay. So bring. One second. Okay. Here. Thank you. Okay, you grab that one. You have to go kind of. Yeah. Here. Oh no. Put all of them there.
Grab it. Fire. So
Fire.
grab this thing and push forward. Okay, so what's happening was those were the neurotransmitters, and they were going through the axon, and then they got pushed out, and those are the electrical impulses that went to the next neuron. So that was just a quick activity, and then we'll move on. So let's just drop that down. Thanks. Okay. So how Alzheimer's changes the brain, so we're finally getting to the actual disease. It leads to the death of neurons, and this results in a lot of tissue loss. And so it causes the brain to shrink dramatically in size and lose all of its functions. So the cortex shrivels up, and this is always the part used for thinking and planning and remembering. The most severe shrinkage is found in the hippocampus, and this is where new memories are formed, so that's why short-term memory is the first to go, and long-term memories stay until the very advanced stages. So damage at the microscopic levels, when you get into plaques and tangles, they have a lot less synapses and neurons than a healthy brain does. So there's abnormal groups of the protein beta amyloid, and these are the plaques that build up in between the cells. It's sticky, so that's why it builds up. And then it's some of the most dangerous forms. You can probably see more on your diagram, is when it builds up in between the synapse and the next dendrite, because then it can't send signal between the cells. Another one would be tangles, and these are twisted strands of a protein called tau. Healthy areas